Oge had always been outstanding. From the days of her secondary school, everybody knew she was destined for something great. She was not just book smart, she was disciplined, respectful, and carried herself with so much confidence that made teachers proud and parents wished their children could be like her. In the university, she continued in the same light, always top of her class and never allowing anything to distract her. By the time graduation came, Oge finished as the best student in her faculty, and unlike many graduates in Nigeria who spend years submitting CVs from one office to another, Oge didn't have to taste that struggle. She was lucky. Or maybe, as some people would say, grace was just speaking for her. Her uncle, a top executive in one of the biggest companies in the country, had already arranged a place for her. Imagine the joy. The very same week she held her certificate proudly in her hands was the same week she received her appointment letter. She did not waste time before she started proving herself. From her first day at work, her brilliance showed. Colleagues admired her, bosses respected her, and within 2 years, Oge had done so many things that wowed the CEO. She was promoted to head her department. With her new position, she had to work closely with Tony, the assistant head of department. They spent countless late nights together in the office, brainstorming together on how to get tasks done, meeting targets for their department. Sometimes, they didn't leave the office until well past 10 p.m. And on days when the pressure was too much, they ordered dinner and ate side by side at their desk. Slowly, without either of them planning it, something deeper began to form. Tony admires Oge's brilliance, the way she carried herself with authority, but never looked down on anyone. He saw her discipline, her courage, and her humility, despite her position. Tony, on the other hand, was also dedicated, hardworking, and never tried to compete with her. Before they knew it, they fell in love. But there was a problem. Their company had a strict policy. Romantic relationships among employees were not allowed. Everybody knew the rules, so they kept their relationship hidden. Their every glance, every smile, every little moment had to be carefully managed. They were careful, like very, very careful. But love, as we know, is like a smoke. No matter how you try to hide it, it finds a way to escape. The truth finally came out on Oge's birthday. Tony planned a surprise for her. Right there, in the office, in front of their colleagues, he went down on one knee and proposed. So it's true. These two have been dating. Their colleagues started whispering to themselves. Oge's eyes filled with tears as she said yes, and the office erupted in cheers and claps. Later that night, after the celebration, Tony took Oge out for proposal dinner. Oge, he said gently, since we're about to get married, you know management won't allow this. One of us will have to resign, which I think you should be the one to resign. Oge looked at him. Excuse me? Me? Resign? Hell no. Tony, my salary is far higher than yours. I have worked hard for this position and I have built my career. Why can't you quit and find job instead? Another job. Neither of them wanted to give in. They started arguing about it. Oge carried her bag and left with anger. Oge thought her mother would stand by her, maybe even defend her decision to keep her job. After all, Mama had always told her that education was a woman's pride, that success was something nobody can take away from you. But when she sat in the living room, pouring out her heart, her mother's response was not what she expected. My daughter, Mama said, listen to me. A man is the head of the house. Don't let pride blind you. A job will always come again, but a good husband is not easy to find. If Tony says he wants to stay, then let him stay. You can always find another job. What if this job ruins your relationship and you eventually get fired? Just think about it. She felt so confused. She thought of her years of hard work, her sacrifice, the late nights, the joy of her promotion in that company, the thought of starting all over again in another company. The next morning, a decision was made. With shaking fingers, she typed her resignation letter and submitted it to her boss. Her boss was also pained about her decision for the fact that she is the best staff, but policy could not be bent because of her. They had to let her go. A few months later, they had their wedding. After the wedding, Oge stepped into the reality of what it meant to sacrifice. After several arguments with Tony, she had to move from her luxury apartment into Tony's apartment. She had to keep telling herself over and over again that love was the sacrifice. She reminded herself that happiness is what matters and building life with the man she loved. They had their honeymoon and it was fun throughout. After their honeymoon phase, Oge started to plan to start applying for a job. One evening, as they were eating, Oge told her husband she wanted to start job hunting again. She had missed the office work. I don't want that for you, he said. I want you to be a full housewife. Focus on the home. Focus on the children we will have and leave the work for me. Oge looked shocked. I don't understand you. Tony, that was not the plan. And don't even tell me that. I changed my mind, he said. That is not even possible. She stood up and went to the room with anger. Days later, she had another conversation with him. This time, suggesting a business. Just something to keep her busy and bring in extra income. But Tony refused. I don't want you to go out. And also, let me add this. I don't want to see any of your friends here, He said. It was at this point she knew she had entered one chance. At first, Tony gave her upkeep money, enough to buy stuff for herself. But as months passed, that too began to reduce. Then it stopped completely. If she asked for money to buy clothes or change her hairstyle, he would tell her that what did she need that for? After all, you are not going out. Her hair grew rough, her clothes were getting faded, and no new ones to replace them. Tony did not bother about that. Oge now turned to a young woman who now ties wrappers from morning till night, doing house chores. She became a shadow of herself, a whole career woman. And then came another challenge. Pregnancy refused to come. Month after month, her hopes were dashed. It didn't take long before Tony began to change. He started coming home late. His excuses were always the same. Work was too much, meeting ran late, or traffic was tight. But Oge noticed something else. He often came home smelling of perfume that didn't belong to him. One day, Oge summoned courage and confronted him about him coming late at night and him smelling perfume that is strange. Before she could finish her statement, Tony gave her a slap. How dare you question my movements? I take care of the bills in the house. I feed you. So how dare you asking my movements? It is my house. I can go out and come in as I want. It was as if Oge was daydreaming when the slap landed on her face. She couldn't believe that Tony would do that. He did not even bother to apologize to her. He acted as if nothing happened. One Saturday, Oge went to meet Tony. She said, "Why are you treating me like this? What did I do to you?" For a moment, he said nothing. Then he sighed and sat back. Back in my childhood days, my mother earned more than my father, he began. You could feel the bitterness in his tone. Do you know what that did to our home? My father became a slave in his own house. My mother became the husband. He cooked, cleaned, and he still begged for respect. My mother, she insulted him, controlled him, and never submit to him. He died as a broken man. And I swore on his grave that I would never let that happen to me. So when I saw that you were any more than me, I knew it was a sign. And I don't want what happened to my father to happen to me. Oge, so rest. Let me take care of the house as a head of the family. Oge stared at him, and in that moment, everything became clear. She had fallen victim of her husband's childhood trauma. One afternoon, Oge's best friend, Betty, came visiting. It had been months since they saw each other, and the moment Betty stepped into the house, she could not believe what she saw. Oge, what is wrong with you? Are you okay? Why are you looking unkempt? Oge could not pretend to her friend and narrated everything she had been facing since she got married. She broke down and wept bitterly, crying out the pain she had bottled for too long. Betty rushed to her, holding her tightly. "It's okay, my friend." The next day, Betty came to her house, carrying a shopping bag and a laptop. She handed the bag to her. "Okay," she said firmly, looking her friend straight in the eyes. "You cannot die in silence. Take this laptop. Start applying for remote jobs. Don't tell Tony. Hide it if you have to. But you must do something for yourself. You can't let your light go out like this." For the first time in months, Oge felt something stir inside her. Betsy's word lit a fire in her heart again. That night, long after Tony had gone to bed, she sneaked into the guest room and began sending out applications. Weeks later, the breakthrough came. An email dropped into her inbox. An international company had offered her a remote role, one that paid far more than the job she once had. Oge stared at the screen, tears rolling down her face. But this time, they were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of relief. Quietly, with wisdom, and without drawing attention, Oge started saving her earnings in a private account. One evening, Oge was tidying the sitting room when Tony's phone, left carelessly on the couch, popped on with a message. She did not mean to look, but the words on the screen pulled her in like a magnet. "I'm pregnant, Tony. What do we do?" Oge looked at it again, as if she did not read it well. The name on the message was from one of their colleagues, the very woman Tony always claimed he was working late with. Every of her suspicion was true. Her husband was not only cheating, he had gotten another woman pregnant. But instead of confronting him, she was calm. She knew shouting would not fix this. The next morning, she called an agent. By the end of the week, she had found a new apartment and began her plan B. She told her mother everything that had been happening. Although she had prepared herself for another lecture about marriage's endurance, a woman must be patient, but her mother shocked her. "My daughter," Mama said, with tears in her eyes, "leave. I was wrong before. Don't die in a man's house. Don't stay where you are not valued. You are my child before you are anybody's wife." Her friend, Betty, stood by her too. Between Betty and her mother, they made careful arrangements. They even contacted police officers and begged them to stay close on the day she would leave, in case Tony tried to make trouble. The D-Day came. Oge dressed up neatly, for the first time in a long while, and stood before Tony. "I'm going to work," she said, her bag already in her hand. "Work? In whose house? You are not going anywhere." Oge stood her ground, but Tony's voice became louder and angrier. Oge replied, "Tony, you cannot stop me. I am not your slave." As she was about to open the door, Tony pulled her back to hit her But before the blow could land, the front door burst open. Her mother, Betty, and the two policemen stormed in. The police stepped in immediately, their voices firm and commanding. "Mr. Tony, you are under arrest for abuse and harassment," one officer said. Within seconds, Oge did not waste time. With Betty and her mother by her side, she moved quickly, gathering her clothes, her documents, and the few belongings she could carry. And then she walked out of the house that had caged her, out of the life that had drained her, out of Tony's shadow. When she stepped into her new apartment later that day, she paused. She stood in the middle of the room, dropped her bags, and tears began to roll down her cheeks. But these were not the bitter tears she had cried so many nights before. These were tears of freedom. She had a job again. She had her own space, her own life, her dignity restored. She felt whole again. Oge closed her eyes, placed her hand over her chest, and whispered to herself, "This is who I really am, and I will never lose myself again." True love supports and lifts you. It does not cage or silence you. The moment you start losing who you are just to keep someone else, it is no longer love. It is bondage. We have come to the end of today's story. We hope you enjoyed listening to this. Thank you for watching to the end. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you next time. Bye.